Images are a major part of most website designs. While the web is not exclusively a visual medium, it is primarily so, and images are a valuable part of that equation. Let's make a working copy of images.html, and I'm going to call this images-working.html and open it in my text editor. And you see here, there's the whole file. It's got some lorem ipsum in it, and it has here, starting on line 17, an image tag. And let's go through that image tag real quick. It has several attributes. It starts with a source attribute, src. It tells the browser the source of the image, where to go on the server to pick up the image. And in this case, it has a relative URL. We'll talk about relative URLs in the next chapter. But this basically specifies a subdirectory called images and a file in that subdirectory called scissors.png. And this image has a width of 240 pixels and a height of 240 pixels. And I always specify the width and the height of an image, and I'll tell you why. If you're on a slow internet connection, and I have to assume that some of the people that come to visit my websites will be on a slow internet connection, it may load the page, and then it may take it a while to get around to loading the images. And when it does load the images, then the page can jump around as it figures out the size of the spaces that are going to be required for the various images. And you'll see text shift this way and that way. And you might even be trying to click on a link and it jumps out of the way under your mouse, or another link jumps in the way. And all of a sudden you're clicking on something you didn't mean to, and you have to go back and wait all over again for the page to load. It can be a problem. And when you specify the width and the height of all of the objects on your page, then as soon as the HTML is loaded, the browser knows how to lay out the page. And in most cases, it'll go ahead and do that. And as the images fill in, things won't jump around as much. And so I always specify the width and height of my images for that reason. Next, we see the alt attribute and the title attribute. And the alt attribute is text that will display if the browser is not able to load the image, or if the browser is able to load the image, but it takes a while for it to get around to it. And the title attribute specifies text that'll show up in a tooltip when you hover your mouse over the image. Let's go ahead and load this page up in our browser. Load it in Firefox here. And there's the picture of a pair of scissors. And you'll notice when I hover my cursor over the image, I get a little tooltip that says running with these is not recommended. And if we look in our source code here, you see the title attribute, running with these is not recommended. I put that title attribute in capitals. I usually do that in lowercase. Of course, this is HTML and either is acceptable. And I may save it this way so it may show up in lowercase on your computer when you load the exercise files. But you see that title says running with these is not recommended, and that's the text that shows up when I hover my cursor over these scissors. So it's important to understand the distinction between the alt attribute and the title attribute. The alt attribute is what shows up when the image can't be loaded. If I just misspell the name of this file here, I'll put an extra S in it and reload this, you'll see that the image doesn't show up because it can't load it. It doesn't have the right file name. And instead, this alt text shows up. And actually, if I hover my cursor over that, I still get the title text. And so that's the purpose of the alt text. If for some reason the image is not available, or for browsers that aren't visual browsers, for people that are visually impaired, then that alt text will be displayed or read or in some way given to the user. The title attribute, on the other hand, is for this extra information. And in this case, it shows up in a tooltip. And that's how it works on most visual browsers. So HTML's image tag is both simple and powerful. We'll cover much more about HTML's image-related features in the rest of this chapter.